Let's start with MindSpace on iPadOS, and then later on we can circle back and see whether we see any significant differences with the macOS and iPhone versions. I have a keyboard attached to this iPad that I'll use for quick typing, but I'll try to remember to use touch for the interface to include those who don't use a keyboard. Let's just dive right in and select the empty node that's just begging for a title for our project. I'll type in summer vacation. We don't have a plan for this trip yet, but we can start brainstorming what to consider. To the right of our central node, the plus button is inviting us to add our first child node. I'll type in, where shall we go on vacation? And then I'll tap away, which leaves the node selected. I made this node's text purposely long, making the node very wide. With the node selected, on the top right, you'll see a little purple dot. I can drag that to the left to force it to word wrap into more of a square shape. I like having the flexibility to change the aspect ratio to make things fit more nicely. I'll tap the plus button to add a child node, and I'll type in Hawaii. With the node selected like this, you'll see a node toolbar across the bottom of my screen. The pencil allows you to enter edit mode on the node, which we can also do with the double tap of a node. We can add a new child node, which is the same as the big purple plus button next to our node. Now the most useful button here is the Add Sibling node. I'll add Florida, then I'll tap New Sibling again, and I'll type Charlevoix, my favorite town in Michigan. I'll tap Where Shall We Go, then add a sibling node with the button and call that Who's Coming. If you find the node toolbar handy, you might like it to be closer by to where you're working. In the upper right of the app, there's a 3-dot menu, and the second option is Node Toolbar. From here, you could hide the Node Toolbar, or you could choose Follow. Now you'll see that the Node Toolbar is right near the node we're working on. I'll tap the pencil to edit this node, and the Node Toolbar gets out of your way so you can apply style changes to your text, such as bold, italics, underlined, and strike-through. We can even dictate more text into the node. I'll dictate to the end of the text, on our vacation, and tap the mic again to stop dictating. When I tap outside of the node toolbar jumps back up above the node. Let me tap back on where we're going on vacation. In the node toolbar, we have a horizontal 3-dot menu. When I tap it, all of the child nodes collapse and it shows us how many nodes are hidden. We'll come back to the second 3-dot menu in a bit. We have a right chevron in the node toolbar that takes us to cut, copy, paste, and delete. Let's tap the copy button, and then I'll tap on the Charlevoix node and use the paste button. Notice that copying a node copies all of its children as well. I'll tap the duplicate node and hit the trash can to delete. Believe it or not, there's more in the node toolbar, but we're going to come back to the rest later. I've added a lot more nodes to our little mind map to add who's coming on our vacation, when we should go, and I've started a packing node. Here's a cool viewing trick with MindSpace. I'm going to drag the mind map off screen, and after just a couple of seconds, you'll see a button that says Back to the Center. Tap that, and boom, our mind map is centered on the main node. All right, enough party tricks. Let's get back to our vacation planning. When you're brainstorming, your ideas don't naturally come out in the order you'd need to make decisions. But that's the magic sauce of mind maps. You can just tap and drag nodes around to make it make more sense. We can't pack before we know what time of year it will be, so let me drag the when node above packing. In the top right of the window, we see a paintbrush that opens a right sidebar. At the top of the Format pane, we have tabs for Layout, Color, and Format. All mind mapping apps give you some different layout options, but this is where MindSpace really shines. In the free version, you get quite a few, but the $1 a month Pro version really goes over the top. Notice that at the top of the layout options, it says to apply to all main nodes. We'll come back to that in a minute. Under Layout, we have several categories of viewing our mind maps. After carefully centering our mind map just now, let me drag it to the left so we can see the changes as we choose different layouts. Under the mind map category, I'll select the second option. And now instead of the nodes sitting on lines, they're in little rounded boxes with roundy lines. We have a chevron to see the options to the right, or you can just drag with your finger to drag them into view. The next one is roundy lines with solid boxes. Then we have hollow rectangular boxes with squared off lines. On the next row, we have my favorite layout with different colors for each node and swoopy rather than roundy lines. Sorry to use such technical terms. The next one looks sort of like our first layout, but instead of the text sitting on top of the lines, the text is inline. Then we have another squared off version, and then a combo of filled boxes and inline text. All of those options I just showed you, and we're just done looking at the mind map category. We have 12 organization chart layouts. I'm not going to go through them all, but I want you to see how different they look from the mind map layouts. As I tap through them, you can see they're kind of top down, like an org chart, and have the same kind of changes of line shape, boxes, and inline text. After this, we have timeline layouts. These are very different. Instead of having parallel relationships as siblings, each of the main nodes is along a line indicating dependency in time, and the siblings of those nodes are in a vertical line. The first 6 timeline layouts are horizontal, and when we get to timeline 7, they turn into vertical timelines. I'll finish going through all 12 timeline views. I told you there were a lot of options, but we have one more form of layout, and that's called tree diagrams. As I select each of these one by one, you can see that they're sort of a combo of some of the other options we've seen, but they all have a major branch with the major nodes hanging off of it. MindSpace is in very active development, and as I was working on this tutorial for you, they came out with an update that added custom layouts down at the bottom. Before we play with that, let me pick my favorite mind map layout from the second row. Back down to the bottom, I'll tap the plus for custom layout. We get a little graphic of the current structure that I just chose. Basic controls the overall font of the entire map. I'll tap on Helvetica and choose Impact. You can see that all of the nodes now have that new font. I can tap the circular arrow to revert back to Helvetica. When I select level 1, this will only affect the main node. We can change the shape from a rounded rectangle to one of the above line or inline options, or any of these shapes. I'll select the diamond. If I select fill and I change it to no fill, you'll see that we've completely lost our diamond. That's because border is set to no border. Changing it to have a 5-pixel border doesn't really help much on this particular map layout. Let's change it back to filled. I can change the font and font size of just this level. If I scroll, you'll see the option to add a lower level or to delete this level. Now, deleting a level doesn't actually delete the level entirely on the map, it just removes the tailored layout for that level. Let's move on to level 2, and now we can change the structure of the layout by tapping through these options. Again, we can change the shape, fill, and border for level 2 if we wanted to. If I scroll, I can now change the shape of the branch and whether it's solid or dashed. I can change the font and its size as well. Sometimes it's nice to have descending font sizes for your subnodes, but sometimes that can make it hard to read. It's good to know that this custom layout option is available for making those adjustments for your needs. The layout I chose only shows levels 1 and 2 when you go into custom layout, while other layouts might show you more levels. But that's okay, we can add a lower level, and now make adjustments to that. If that lower level didn't exist in our custom layout, then it would follow the format of the node above it. If you want to save your layout, tap the check mark, and now you can see our layout in custom layouts. I'll tap and hold on it, and I could open it up to edit the layout, or I'll just tap delete. Note that custom layouts are saved within individual documents, so you won't see this custom layout show up in your other documents. While having so much flexibility in layouts is impressive, MindSpace even allows you to combine layouts within a single mind map. This format looks great for location, win, and packing, but Who's Coming seems like maybe it should be more of an org chart sort of format. I'll select the Who's Coming node, and then at the top of the layouts, I'll select the drop-down, and I'll change it to Apply to Selected Nodes. Now I'll select the first org chart for the format. You'll see that the format is applied only to that one node, and I really like how that looks now. With this org chart view of who's coming on our vacation, we can tell we've missed some of the structure of our family. Audrey and Rusty are Clark and Ellen's children. If I tap and hold on Audrey, I can drag her node onto Ellen, and when Ellen gets a purple outline, I know I can let go of Audrey to create a child node. I'll do the same thing with Rusty. If you do have a keyboard, You can Command select multiple nodes and drag them as a group to change their parent node. I haven't yet found a way to make two children be the children of two parents, so we're just going to leave them connected to Ellen. I'd like to designate a relationship between Clark and cousin Eddie, so I'll tap and drag Clark to the right, taking care not to stop while over Ellen's node. If you have a keyboard, you can easily move nodes around by holding down the Command key and using the arrow keys. In the top menu bar, you can see a curved arrow that will create a relationship. With Clark already selected, I'll tap the relationship arrow, and it tells me I need to select a second node to add the relationship. So I'll tap on cousin Eddie. Now we have a gray text box trying to cram itself between the two nodes. Don't worry, we can fix that. I'll type cousins and then tap away. Now I can drag the relationship node out and away where we can actually read it. There are times that adding a relationship can be handy, but they don't magically make space for other nodes. So if you add them, you'll spend a fair bit of time moving them around trying to make them look good. I use this tool very sparingly.